So what worries do you have, or potentially have you heard from other players or owners or executives around the league about the competitive integrity of games?
Adam Silver has a league-wide integrity problem. And as a hypothetical, if the NBA wanted to directly and immediately restore confidence back into the league, what is the one thing they could do right now? Well, they could hire this guy.
Welcome to Pablo Torre Finds Out. I am Pablo Torre.
A Pablo Torre audit into some of the league's most recent and scrutinized happenings and events would immediately help with fan confidence and fans starting to believe in the competitive balance of the league. But as it stands, there are several things that have happened and transpired where the fan confidence is quickly eroding. So let's now go through some of these happenings. I'm going to tab to the big board, and the first item we have is the Mavericks trade Luka Doncic inexplicably, and then they win the number one pick in the NBA draft. So here we've got the Ringer's coverage of the Luka Doncic trade, and the headline is, the Luka Doncic trade is the dumbest NBA move I have ever seen. Below this it reads, there's no living this one down. In a trade that makes zero basketball sense and will go down in NBA infamy, the Dallas Mavericks are sending prime Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers for real. And then we follow this up with the ESPN coverage of the Mavericks winning the NBA draft lottery. So here the title is, Mavericks win NBA draft lottery with 1.8% odds. To start the article, it reads, the Dallas Mavericks have moved past the Luka Doncic trade in resounding fashion Monday by winning the NBA draft lottery and then the accompanying right to select Cooper Flagg with the number one pick. So the NBA would have us believe that this is happenstance. It just so happens that after the Mavericks inexplicably traded Luka Doncic in what was a horrible NBA trade that was so bad, people thought it was fake, that right after that trade happens, which was it just so happened to be the NBA's flagship team, the Los Angeles Lakers. After that trade, the Mavericks won the NBA draft lottery, and the reason they won was simply because they had a non-0% chance of winning, and so that 1.8% chance of winning came through, and now the Mavericks have the rights to draft the coveted NBA pick, Cooper Flagg, which they did. So this not only gave the Mavericks Cooper Flagg, but it also helped the Los Angeles Lakers, who desperately needed an infusion of talent that wasn't coming in the form of anything else. There was no talent in sight for the Los Angeles Lakers to build from. But now, as the writer said, they've got Luka Doncic, a prime Luka Doncic, to help change the trajectory of their franchise and keep the Los Angeles Lakers relevant. So now let's go back to the big board. We're going to look at this next item. And then here we've got the NBA drug program, and I have your PED program. There's not a lot of transparency here, and the NBA doesn't talk a lot about this. We've seen players in the past that have been penalized under the program, but this isn't happening recently. And I bring this up because now we're going to tab to an article where the title is, he was on steroids. Former NBA star makes shocking doping allegations against LeBron James. And so this is in reference to Jeff Teague saying that LeBron was on steroids. And he's not the only former NBA podcast personality making accusations. We also have an article here. Kevin Garnett accuses LeBron James of using banned substances during his career. And of course, we all know that LeBron James is well past what should be the twilight of his career, but yet he's still a top 20, 25 NBA player. So it begs the question, how is he able to do this? I think it's impressive with the steroid use because we've seen no other player, even with steroids, be able to last this long. And I say steroids loosely, any performance-enhancing drugs is what I'm referring to. But of course, this also calls into question the league's credibility and, of course, the drug program along with that. But we'll go back to the big board and let's look at now. Again, we have LeBron James here. We have the LeBron James and Clutch Sports apparent and real conflict of interest. And I actually covered this over a year ago. And so now I've tabbed to this video. LeBron James' influence on Clutch Sports. Does Rich Paul have a conflict of interest? So yes, when we're looking at the influence that Clutch Sports has and the potential for influence on Clutch Sports by LeBron James, this also calls into question is the NBA actually enforcing its own rules against Clutch Sports? Let's now go back to the big board, and we have now the Jalen Brunson and Dirk Nowitzki contract. So Jalen Brunson's happened just recently. Let's look at an ESPN article. Here, the title is Knicks Jalen Brunson accepts $156.5 million, $113 million less than a 2025 deal. So, of course, this article is from over a year ago. And here we have the article start in a largely unprecedented financial concession to give roster flexibility to a contending franchise. New York Knicks All-Star guard Jalen Brunson has agreed to a 4-year, $156.5 million contract extension, $113 million less guaranteed than he is eligible to sign for a year from now. Note the word unprecedented. Also note the 1.8% chance. Also note the fact that a lot of this is just outside of the norm, and it's not stuff that usually happens. And we're supposed to believe that all of these different things that are happening as a deviation from the standard, they're just occurring over and over again in the NBA realm naturally. It just happenstance. It just so happens that the Mavericks won the NBA draft lottery right after they inexplicably traded Luka Doncic. When things over and over again are happening and they're incredible, you have to ask yourself, how do all of these incredible things keep happening in the same circle? And so that's one thing to think about as we look at these different happenings that have brought into question the NBA's integrity. But now let's look at an article for Dirk Nowitzki. So here we have the title, Dirk Nowitzki signs for 3 years, $25 million. So the article starts, Dirk Nowitzki has taken an even bigger pay cut than expected to help Mark Cuban fortify the Dallas Mavericks roster. And then we continue on. Let's see. Sources say that Dirk Nowitzki received strong interest in free agency from the Houston Rockets and Los Angeles Lakers to leave Dallas for max level money, but refused to engage in negotiations with either team. And then it continues. Nowitzki consented to such a steep pay reduction from last year's $22.7 million to the roughly $8 million he'll get for the upcoming season to give the Mavericks added flexibility. Note there, steep reduction. Also, when we look at Jalen Brunson, the Jalen Brunson article, unprecedented. Remember with what's happening with LeBron James. Again, this would be unprecedented. A player playing as a top 25 player this far past the twilight of his career. But we'll continue on. So let's go back to the big board. Last item, the Lakers free throw disparity. So let's look at an article here. The Lakers' massive free throw advantage is finally getting the attention it deserves. Why do the Lakers shoot so many more free throws than their opponents? So again, this is why the league is asking, this is why so many fans are asking questions. Is the league actually being run the right way? So let's go ahead and go to one bonus item that I don't have on the big board. Warriors adjusting to officiating changes amid NBA's scoring explosion. Foul calls are down since the All-Star break, though the NBA won't admit a change in emphasis. It could play to the Warriors' advantage. One more article. Adam Silver drops bombshell admission on NBA officiating after previous denials. So it continues, Commissioner Adam Silver said the NBA has made an, quote, adjustment to reduce the number of foul calls during games. So one thing that's interesting here is that the statistics bore out that the NBA had in fact made a significant change in the way that games were refereed recently. But the NBA initially denied this, but then later here we have Adam Silver admitting it. So again, these are the type of things where fans start to question, what we are even watching. Is this the world? Is this the WWE? Or is this the NBA with a legitimate basis for a competitive sport? And so that is what has happened. And the NBA really needs to rein this in, because right now the league is becoming more of a joke, and becoming more of a discussion around what is wrong with the league than actually looking at the game itself. And so that there we're starting to see a drift away from legitimacy. And so if the NBA would like to curtail this and bring things back in, rein things back in, then I can think of no one better than Pablo Torre to bring in for an independent audit to actually look at what is happening with the NBA.